Coming to you live from Northern at an undisclosed location. And just a quick update about what happened to Charlie Kirk with the latest breaking news we have from the investigators. You may have seen already the photos of the supposed person of interest and some videos of that person on the roof, walking across the roof, jumping off the roof, climbing down and jumping off the roof, walking across the parking lot, kind of limping along, and then at some point popping out further along in the parking lot, kind of running briefly, suggesting that maybe he was limping because he was carrying a rifle in his pants or something like that. Who knows? I'm sure the investigators will reveal what's necessary, and hopefully they'll catch him sooner rather than later. Again, we don't even know, frankly, if it's a him or her. We don't have actually a suspect being arrested. We just have a person of interest. That can mean a million things. Persons of interest are not always the suspects, by the way. It could be that the person of interest is the main suspect. For all you know, there's more. They've already arrested a few people and then released them after some questions. So they probably had nothing to do with it. Maybe they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, dressed similar, looked kind of similar, but had a perfectly valid alibi, what have you. So it could very well be that, we won't get any actual confirmation about this anytime soon. Like, it could very well be that we actually never find out. Also, you got to remember, like, bear this in mind. Most murders in the United States do not get solved. Yes, you got the FBI on this, and you got the state police and local police on this. Sure, still doesn't change the statistics. It's something like 90%. I mean, it really is a crazy high number to think about. Murders in the U.S. don't get solved. Um, Murder, well, assassination, really, yeah, sure, it was a murder, but it was also an assassination and a political assassination. Was he a politician? It was still a political assassination. Why? Well, because he was right, so to call it anything other than a political assassination is wrong, because that's exactly what it was. Charlie Kirk, many parallels have been drawn between him and I saw some rabbi comparing him to Abraham, Avraham, the Jewish, or the Hebrew patriarch, right, from Iraq originally, or Babylon, who came to the promised land with his family and, made a family, or settled in Israel, made his family grow here, and grew and grew and grew until they were a people. No invasion, no colonizing, just grew a family here in the land. One family became more and more and more. As they multiplied, eventually became a people and a nation, etc. And similarly, the comparison was that Charlie Kirk also did the same kind of thing where he started, just by himself and grew this following of his into a very large following until it was significant in size. And like Abraham, Charlie Kirk also spoke to people with differing ideas in his tent, which is quite literally where Charlie was when he was assassinated. And Abraham was also famous for speaking with people in his tent and also never getting angry. Something also you can say about, at least publicly, I've never seen Charlie Kirk angry. Maybe he has been. I don't know. I've never actually seen him like yell and scream or curse or anything like that. That doesn't seem to be his character. Maybe he did it. I don't know, but I've never seen him behave in any way that would even resemble what I would call angry. He was always very calm, cool, and collected. Very, very polite man. Very respectful. It doesn't matter if you agree with his opinions or not. Like, sure, he has a lot of opinions that I didn't agree. And can you think of a single human being whose opinions you agree with 100%? Like, it doesn't exist, right? Because everyone has different life experience. Therefore, someone's going to have a different opinion with you about something, at least, right? Even if they agree with you about 99.99999% of stuff, they're still going to find something to disagree with you about. It's just human nature. None of us agree on everything, right? But we can agree on a majority of things, like m- basic values. Don't assassinate people who are just speaking their mind peacefully. Apparently, some people think it's still okay to do that, and I hope they catch whoever thinks that and whoever did that, and may the full extent of the law be brought down upon them, because they certainly deserve it after what they did. Whoever did that. I saw some um, messages saying that the bullets were inscribed with LGBTQ whatever sayings or something, or trans sayings, whatever it might be. Here's the thing: if you do that, if you inscribe a bullet, you're changing the ballistics of it and making it far less likely to hit the actual target. And only one bullet was fired, at least as anyone can tell from the videos, where there's just that one shot. If there was more than one, you'd have heard more than one, right? Because you heard that one very clearly. Um, and it hit the target, which means probably not inscribed, but who knows? The coroner has that information if they want to report that. But I don't think anyone has said so far. No coroner has said, or no coroner's report has said that the bullet that struck Charlie was inscribed with anything. And if there were other bullets or other bullet casings that were inscribed, again, unless you're talking about like literally the shell, which doesn't get fired out of the rifle, obviously, it just holds the bullet. Yeah, maybe those were inscribed or something. That's possible. But again, there's no proof of it yet. Those are just claims made on sites like the Daily Beast or whatever, which sometimes gets stuff right and sometimes doesn't. Hello there, I see you. Hi, okay. So right now there is no suspect. At least it's been arrested. The manhunt is still on. Um, that's what's happening. That's the latest and greatest on that. Hopefully they catch the guy soon. Yesterday, of course, was 9/11. It's still 9/11 in some parts of the U.S., like in Hawaii, for example, right? Um, and it was the 24th anniversary. And of course, what a day to have a 24th anniversary of 9/11 on another day when someone was assassinated for his American political values and for sharing them to the world. Again, you don't have to like Charlie Kirk or think anything of his politics and political ideas to agree that nobody should be shot for that. He wasn't a violent person. I mean, it's just insane. He wasn't attacking somebody. He didn't have to be shot to prevent disorder or safety. No, he was calmly sitting in his tent in a college campus fishbowl, talking to whoever wanted to come and talk with him. I mean, how much more Americana can you get? Really, it's shameful what happened. And what's crazy is that you see all these media idiots doing things and saying things that are basically belittling um, the fact that he was just doing that. Right? They're all putting it on, well, he was a controversial flamethrower. He's a bomb thrower. What bomb throwing? Words? Not words or bomb throwing? Yeah, sure, you can say that for your like little media title caption or news story piece, but he wasn't a bomb thrower, literally. And even if his political words were controversial, that's not violence. Words are not violence, okay? I know people say it, but words are not violence. Yeah, you can cause people pain in their heart. You can cause people pain mentally by saying certain things. It's absolutely true. But sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Do you understand what that means? It means that words, as much as they can feel like they hurt, don't actually physically cause you pain. Right? Even if somebody says something to you that is the worst thing in the world, like they tell you something terrible happened to someone you love. Yes, it hurts. Yes, it can feel like it destroys you. But at the end of the day, you should survive hearing. If you're just hearing the information, if something physical isn't being done to you to also hurt you physically, as painful as those words may be, and yeah, maybe it can cause somebody to have a heart attack if they're emotionally fragile enough in an extenuating circumstance. It's certainly possible. But generally speaking, words, as a rule, cannot hurt you. Right? So to say that words are violence is this gross construct. It's really a misconstruction. Because again, yes, I know, I understand words can be painful to hear or whatever in your head and in your heart, but generally speaking, they're not going to cause you to physically bleed out or have traumatic, um, blunt force or piercing force injuries or a heart attack. You know, those who do, who may die of something like a heart attack or of sadness, as they say, are people who are already very emotionally fragile and whose immune system is probably in a very weakened state. Okay, that's physical. That means that they should have that checked out and not be subjected to the most horrible words at a time when they're so vulnerable, because that's different. That's not the same thing as just having a conversation back and forth with somebody and you say something that offends them. Oh no, well, your words hurt me. And that's what people mean when they say words are violence. No, words are not violence. Yeah, you can say some terrible things to people and they can say terrible things to you. That's not violence, right? Is it right to use words that hurt people's feelings? Probably not. It depends on the context, right? If you're lashing out or reacting to something terrible that someone's done, sure, why not? It might be appropriate to use language to be frustrated and demonstrate your frustration or anger or whatever in words. Certainly better to use words than physical force, right? Because physical force can be used for violence, but not words, not so much. Sorry. Um, and I know you're going to point out, well, the extreme circumstances. Yes, I said that's why there are extenuating circumstances. But 99.99% of the time, it's not. It's, it's just not. Um, so yeah, maybe 1 in 10,000 or 1 in 1 million or 1 in 100 million or 1 in 1 billion cases of words being violence can be said, well, that really was kind of violence because of the nature of all the conditions that were there. But it's not common. It's not even close to common. It's barely a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a percent. It's like tiny. Anyway, meanwhile, Israel has wiped out the Hamas leadership. And think of this to yourself, the Hamas leadership in Qatar, that Qatar is denying. They probably knew. They probably greenlit it with Trump because they're sick of having Hamas in their neighborhood for now. Right? They want to be in good cahoots with Washington, D.C. What better way than to get rid of Hamas? What better way than to get rid of Hamas than for Trump to tell them, hey, you got like 48 hours to make up your mind on this peace deal. And it's now or never. You're not getting another chance. So forcing them to come together in a known location where they've been before, by the way, when they were celebrating the attacks on October 7th. They were celebrating Hamas's genocide attempt against Israel and kind of forced them to be in a room, and they thought they still had another day to decide. Meanwhile, that was the day and time and location chosen to hit them because, well, we know they're gathered, take them out, one strike. And as much as Qatar and all their supposed allies have been, saying, "Oh, no, 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 Israel did bad, bad, bad things," right? As much as Israel is, lashing back out, saying, "You guys are a bunch of hypocrites. You're hosting a bunch of terrorists." Um, Now Qatar doesn't have the problem that they're hosting those leaders. Yes, there's still other Hamas people in Qatar. And that's why Israel said, "Give them up, or we might hit again." And the U.S. said to Israel, "No, you're not going to hit Qatar again." So there's back and forth going on stuff between back channels. We don't know exactly all of the details. And again, Qatar and Hamas both deny that the main targets were hit. Meanwhile, Israel says that roughly 5 or 6, top terrorists were taken out. It was a public ceremony with 5 corpses allegedly underneath flags, like 4 Palestinian flags and 1 Qatari flag, or 5 Palestinian flags and 1 Qatari flag, because they say that 1 Qatari, security personnel was killed, and the other 5 were apparently Palestinians. And they say that the Palestinians killed were, children of or relatives of the actual main targets. But notice how not a single one of the targets that they said were not hit and weren't killed Not a single one has been seen since the attack. No photos, no videos, no press conference, no statements from the person in the hospital bed or wherever they might have been. Nothing. Radio silence. And we have seen a press conference with a Hamas spokesman saying that nobody was hit and this and that, and looking very confident, just as confident as he was green. And I don't just mean Hamas green, like new to the job. Um, there's a very good probability that Israel, even though you've seen some doubts from Israeli military people, maybe we didn't get all the targets, who knows what. If they dropped more than 10 ordinances on one building at one time when they knew all those people were gathered together in that one place, and if you saw the building and the target room that was hit, there's very little chance that any of the targets survived that if they were there. Something tells me they were there or Israel would not have hit it. Why would they strike that target if the targets weren't in the building or in the room even? It makes no sense, right? They obviously knew. They obviously knew the targets were there. And how do we know that? Because again, Hamas was negotiating, allegedly, according to Qatar. They were negotiating amongst themselves, discussing amongst themselves what to agree with and what not to agree with in the latest peace proposal from the U.S. So very likely Qatar knew, Israel knew. Also, by the way, Saudi Arabia probably knew as well. Apparently, the Israelis may have refueled using UK fuel, like a UK air fuel tanker, like a plane that refuels planes in the air. Apparently, that UK plane had been taken on fuel in Qatar, like to use for refueling. Because yes, sure, the U.S. has a base in Qatar, but it's not like the UK doesn't use their air base from time to time. It's not like other nations in that are allies of the U.S. that are operating in that theater don't use it from time to time. Of course, they do. So apparently, Israel, may have had its own refueling airplanes, but probably used something like a UK refueler over Saudi Arabia to refuel its attack planes on the way to the target or on the way back, either way. So all these things that are like they appear to be kind of performative objections by Qatar, even though they're gaining strength, and all that kind of stuff from their allies. There's a very good chance that that they knew, and that they did probably hit. Israel probably did hit its target. Anyway, I'll talk about other stuff related. There is some stuff that's related to all these physical actions, and people want to say, well, it's related to the markets or whatever. It's not really. The markets move with something else entirely. If you watch my market related videos, you know. By the way, when I get back, I'm doing some things on the channel. Hopefully, you guys will see some changes maybe in the coming weeks or months. We'll see. But in the meantime, if you like my videos, go ahead and like, follow, subscribe. I guess it's on YouTube. Leave a comment and share. If you do that, that'd be great. I really appreciate it. I want to see. You know, I have spent many years publishing and doing things to spread accurate information. Um, I don't care if it's popular or not. It would be nice if more people would see it, but I don't. My goal isn't to be some super popular, YouTuber or something like that, right? It's just not. mm, I don't want to be the Mr. Beast of YouTube. It's not my goal. Um, I don't want to, beat the beast. No thanks. But it would be nice if what I'm saying and doing could get out to just more people. So, subscribe or I'll eat your cookies.